This is day 657 of Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. This week's Arukh HaShulchan Yomi is sponsored for Schus, for Banei Chaim Mazone, for Jonas and Ezra Ben Chana Feigl. If you would like to sponsor or come and share more of Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please contact me directly. It would be greatly appreciated. Today we are doing Simon Shin Pei Zayin, Siv Gimel, to Shin Pei Ches, Siv Gimel. And last we left out, yesterday we left off that Arukh HaShulchan owes us an explanation of why they need both Shitav and Eruv. Do both so as not to forget the concept of Eruv should not be forgotten by children. Those who make a sheet of the mobi, have to also make a Eruv. So children not forget the obligation of Eruv. The children not know what's being done in the outside street. Therefore, if they join together with the mobi, with the bread, some kind of love, we line this in Arukh HaShulchan. You have to do Arukh HaShulchan. The children recognize the bread, which is kind of strange, since they don't go out to the street. So the Mishnah says where they put the bread in a house in the chutzner, and it was a pashlema, not prusa, because then it covers, of course, both bases, since it's in the house and it's whole. So therefore, it qualifies to Arukh HaShulchan. Okay, they made a sheet of the mobi. They forgot to make Arukh HaShulchan. If they're not concerned with on their loaves, somebody else sheet with Shabbos Rishon Abad can lie in the sheet for one Shabbos. We only allow this with great difficulty. But that's why we made the sheet of wine or something else for pass not but bread. But that also when they for obey this so they didn't want there to be just a shituf, so they will forget about Eruv. So only allowed on the first Shabbos. As long as they're not stingy, which are concerned about having a slice of bread. So I'm not concerned they're not going to make an Eruv next week. But in any event, if they like Mishnah Berurah said, if you made a sheet with a whole loaf of bread, then or loaves of bread, you are okay. Even chatchila. Daled make a yoser. Two is even more make that. Feel also sheet behind Mishra Dava. If they made the sheet with wine or something else, ain't tzarich eruv. You don't need additional eruv. Besides that, that's what comes out according to his opinion. From the Gemara, not concerned is going to forget the obligation. That's this language. Some of them rely on Eruv in a place with a shituf, and a shituf place with an Eruv. They're interchangeable. They're 5 yards open to each other. Open to the street. The Chatzeres made an Eruv through the opening between them. That's fine. They don't require shituf in the movi. On the other end, they shituf movi. I feel behind. And they use wine. Which you can't use for Arukh HaShulchan. No need to do it Arukh HaShulchan as well. The Rambam says we do not rely on shituf. The place of Eruv is necessary. Okay, shituf pass unless the shituf itself was done with bread. Adoni Rosh Zal Lokas Abkein Kan Lashon says the two of the Rosh disagrees. But look at Lo Yizkir Rambam Klal B'Tzarich Il. The first distinction between between that you're allowed to do if you did shituf, you rely on that. If ever rely on that, Rambam obviously doesn't rely on that. He doesn't hold that. Hey, Rabbeinu said, he says that there's those who say, if each chatzer, they make it air by itself, can't land a shituf, which seems to be like the Rambam. If every chatzer made its own air, then they try to get in the street. And they make air between in the openings between the chatzeros, but via the street they made their eruv. Oh, Mutar l'shtamish chatzer shemovoi derech psachim shemeneim. They're allowed to use the chatzeros in the movoi, even through the doorways between chatzer and chatzer. They don't have to go through the movoi because they made it in order to go to the next one. Because the shituf doesn't mean you have to go to the movoi, go out on the outside and then come back into the next chatzer. No, they still go from chatzer to chatzer. Some machines mogam erev learn the shituf in lieu of an erev. V'im erev derech hapsachim shnei b'nei erev on the other end in the openings you choose the chatzeros not via the movoi. V'leish taf movoi mutar s'ishtamish chatzeros movoi. Chatzeros can use the movoi. Someone's erev they're learning the erev shivah chatzeros derech hapsachim mogam shituf right on the erev between the yards themselves. The Tomal of Shlonim Tzoklau Deo Zu. So people are astounded, Beis Yosef, that we don't have such an opinion that which says that if you don't make if each chotzer did not make an erev on its own, you can't rely on the shituf. But if it did make an erev on its own, it doesn't need a shituf. The Torah said it works in both directions. Ram says it doesn't work in either direction. He says it works in one direction, not in the other direction. Okay, the Birlo says the Bach and other Kohanim reject this Yeshomim because they hold that everybody holds you can lie on the sheet of bread if you didn't make an erev in the chutz itself, and that is the rikva as well. But for Rabbeinu Ramakas, Yeshom is so much shituf mokam erev. There's those that you can lie on the sheet in place of an erev. I feel the shtad will be ayin, even if it was just wine. And so too you can lie on the erev place of shituf. El simichin savok safti. The anu nagin l'chatchil shlo so rak shituf bechol bekemach. It's all the Ramah speaking. We only make one shituf with flour. V'nira li atam. It seems to me the reason ki erev shalom the kol echad bechotzer nosin l'shituf. And our erev that everybody participates in the shituf have ke'erev v'shituf b'yachad. So erev shituf together. Feel ein la'asos ser. And you shouldn't make more than one. Not sure what he means by that. Okay. That's required shituf b'erev. Have is man a gemara. That's specifically tied to gemara. Shebnei achotzer. Lonan l'shituf. And then people the chutz didn't give for the shituf. Rather, chutz it will be achad. In other words, they didn't give individually to the level of shituf. They only gave level chutz, and the chutz would give to the level of shituf. Chutz will be achad bechad minei chutz and that's not shituf. Avo bechai gamno l'chuyama ein osim rak shituf echad. So this is why it says only to make one. If everybody's giving not just for the chutz, but also for the mavui, so they only make one. But you make another one. Baruch Alav, and you made a bracha on it. Have a bracha l'batala. It's an unnecessary bracha, kalashana. The Mishabura says that it's best to say at the time make an erev that specify you also include the movi, the shituf, and everybody that way everybody holds a yotzei. Zayin v'gam olav tamud. Also in the Ramah they were astonished. Lama chapes tamim. Why does it look for reasons? Came in the nosim shituf b'pas. Once you make a shituf with bread, alom mutar chodeus. Everybody holds it's okay. So he's going in the Yeshim Shkas Rabbeinu Beis Yosef. The Shituf B'vat ain't yotzim kafil b'vas. If only the Shituf not yotzei the Chatzeros even if you use bread. With Zelmer, that's what he says. The Shekol Echad Mibnei Chatzer. That's on the Shituf. If everybody from the Chatzer gives to the Shituf, Gam Yeshim and Shituf B'vat. Also the Yeshim Shituf itself suffices. Vani Omer says I say the Kol Zeh Ayol Lachkor B'Kfi Binyan Arim Shelohem. All this analysis was suitable at their time when the way their cities was constructed. They're based on the principle of Chatzeros and Mavos. We don't have this concept of the Movi like they had time because I was like called the sack on which are lots of Chatzeros. Since you don't have this concept, Chatzeros you only have yards, which front on streets, which are common streets. So therefore, if you make an area in the entire city, it's like a big chutzah. That's what Shulchan says. We're that you require two pasim. The love of mavi should die belechi. It's not enough to use a single lechi, which is by shin samach gimel, like we explained shin samach gimel. In kain mel erev shatzin rak be'erev echad. So therefore, if it's like an erev chatzeros, we can only use one erev in our very large chatzer. But dafka pasta, specifically bread, v'shnach b'bayis, should be in a house. Now we leave in a shul, which we hold for this purpose is no worse than a house. The name starts saying that saying have a rock erev chatzeros, and so shidduch vos cloud. We don't have a shidduch vos at all. So those who make machman says osim erev gam chatzer below bracha. They also make an erev in the chatzer besides the municipal erev. They make it worse. Also, so it's cake. That's like a person who divides his erev up in 1 yard. The erev bata. So there was no void because the yard is not made a joint. Okay, so tonight they can only make on condition of erev ir kayam and rain klum. If the city erev is intact, our stipulation is nothing. Can your own news? I think anybody's mapping in this nowadays. I think almost every town or city you can find people who make their own specific erev without taking into account that there's a municipal erev as well. Shin peches din im lo irvu lo yishtatfu. If there was no erev, no shituf. Aleph im lo irvu haglatzeres lo yishtatfu klal. They didn't make an erev or a shituf whatsoever. Davar pashu tzkir shabbatim masurim letaltel. From the houses, you can't carry to the chutzner and certainly not to the movi. And objects which were overnight, which began Shabbos in the houses. Also, the talk on people chutzner movi, you can't carry them even from the chutzner to the movi. In other words, if they got out to the chutzner, even from yard to yard. Which were at the time Shabbos begins in the yard, you can take them from Chatzah to Chatzah, Mavi, and from Chatzah to Mavi. So to Kalim which were found in the Mavi at the beginning of Shabbos, you can take them the entire Mavi. From the Mavi to the yards. The guy in Chatzah's kafefos, roofs and yards and enclosures, umevos and streets. The Moshes for Kalim which began Shabbos in them, Ayin Shah. Base, you never Gemara Yesh B'Zepluk. There's Machlokes. Rav so with Amos, I mutal tal the Chatzah Mavui. When are you allowed to carry from the Chatzah to the Chatzah and to the Mavui? Kalim Shabshu, these Kalim which began Shabbos inside those Chatzeres and Mavos. Because magical Chatzeres learn of a cloud. It's only when none of the Chatzeres made Erev. A few Kol Chatzas, even each one independently. The Oz, lo shkiri money, the bati mechatzer, because then there aren't so many objects of the houses in the chatzer. Because nobody participates in Erev. Im kol chatzar Erev latzma. Im kol chatzar Erev latzma. Each chatzer made its own Erev. The shkiri money, the bati mechatzer, and then there are going to be objects in the house in the chatzer. Lachen gam afilu came sheshavsu b'chatzer. In that case, where Machri even came which began Shabbos in the chatzer. Also, down the chutzah achla movi. Can't take another chutzah or to a movi. Rashin Shem Talugam came to survive. We're afraid you're going to get mixed up. And they came which were inside the beginning of Shabbos. They were irvu shchichei tuva, because they made an eruv. With each chutzah made its own eruv. So there are many came which are going inside and outside. V'shmuel Rabbi Yochanan Chokim HaRav said the ben Erev ben lo Erev mutter. Whether they made an Erev or didn't make an Erev, you'll have to take Kalim from the Chutz of the Movi, etc. As long as the Hashem and Tzir Gan Kalim Shtot Abayis no make a decree, they might take Kalim out, even those from inside the house. Pasuk Rashi Tosfos Rosh Ravid V'Rova Poskim LaHalacha the Halacha Shmuel Rabbi Yochanan. Looks like Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan that you can take Kalim freely from the Chatzah to the Mobi, etc. It doesn't make them as Erev or not. They pass so always pass the Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, look Rav, not Rav, Mutzer B'Chol, you time of Kalim. It's not what permissible to take Kalim. Sheshav so b'Sochan, Mizel Lezeh, which were behind Shabbos in the Chatzah and the Mobi from one to the other. For various kinds of Zeh Shom Shimon Ayin Beis already came up in the past. Kimmel, Lachemo Tmui Diver Rambam Bezeh. So therefore the Rambam words are astonishing. Shkasa Perkei as well. He writes, Movish L'Nishtafvu, a Movi which is no Shituf, Im Irva Chatzeres Debatim, the Chatzeres made a roofing with the houses. Aim Talking about Labdal Amos Kekarmas. Don't count the movie 4 Amos like you do in a Karmelis. The Machashiv Chatzeres Debatim, the Chatzeres made an Erev with the houses. Nasa Mobi, Kilu Eno. So the Mobi is not there. I'm sorry, Kilu Eno Pasuach Lo Chamibatim, Bilbad Lo Chatzeres. I'm sorry, I messed that wrong. The Machashiv Chatzeres Debatim, Nasa Mobi, Kilu Eno Pasuach Lo Batim Bilbad Lo Chatzeres. Since the Erev Chatzeres mean the Erev Batim took the Chatzeres off the grid, so to speak, and this can't be a Mobi because Mobi has to have Chatzeros and Batim opening up into it. That's why you can't make carrying the entire Mobi. So the people of Chatzer did not make an Erev. You carry in the entire Mobi, including from Chatzer to Chatzer. Kalim Sheshavsu B'Socho B'Chat, Kalim which were in the Chatzer. Because no words in the Chatzer, but there is no Erev. I can't show. Kasab Zalpi the Shabbos. It goes going to the opinion of the Sugim of Shabbos. The Shavah Gam came name of the Rav. Rav says, but I'm pretty sure when we call him the Zel Tamashur Rav, where it says this is the logic of Rav. We should have came in the Irei B'Chatzer B'Batim since he made a Chatzer house as Eruv. Nasa Movi Kabatim Chatzer. The Movi is now like houses without a Chatzer. Come we hold the Kaksha Movi and it looks Shabatim Chatzer B'Sunotocho. It's only when you have houses, 2 houses, on each chatzer and 2 chatzeros. I answer where them made an Erev Mutzah Tatum Kulon, Elat Kain throughout. Shapi Kulon Kagavna Chada, they're all in the same boat. We have a Shapi Batim Chatzeros, Psuchon and since they open to the street, then therefore they are shutfim in the street. Avok shlonishtaf Movi, but they didn't make a shituf Movi. The Chatzer Mabatim Irva, some of the Chatzer with the houses made air for itself. Movi Chalk Man, the Movi is distinct from them. But Chatzer Mabatim are the same. While the Chatzer with the houses is 1 unit, the Movi is the 2nd unit. Nira Ki'ilu Ein B'Movi Rakt over Echad Batim Below Chatzeros. Then so it looks like the only houses with no chatzeros. Rashi takes the Pirush Hashem Maskona Butler Tamza. Going to Maskona's Gemara, there's no longer applicable this logic of it looks like houses on the Movi, not chatzeros. But that's not so difficult. The Rambam, the first time said, Gam if you're Maskona, he also holds that this reason of the issue being that it's as if the Movi doesn't qualify as a proper Movi, also is a problem with Maskonik, because Magid Mishnah. Sorry and shop. But he says brackets of Ashi besides Migram Chatzesh. So Rav Ashi says, who causes the Chatzesh we're going? So Batim, the Leka. And they're not here. Pirush Rashi does the every time the Shneim Mani the Batim Chatzesh, because the objects of houses are found in Chatzesh. For Rami Fresh, don't say Pirush. Rami say this is the pshat. Below Irvu Kishtayim Haim. When they didn't make an Erev, they're like 2. V'ika chabatim chatzeros, and they're separate houses of chatzeros. And Erev was when they made an Erev, k'mosh kasam Mishnah, like Mishnah Melch said, v'duk. Okay, very, very confusing, and Arukh HaShulchan is going to have to try and explain this to us in the last sif, which we'll see next time.